Badger Botherer says, I see most people referring to narcissists as he and comments saying most are male. I'm wondering if that's correct. So there's a couple things with that. Statistically speaking, and of course, like statistics can be skewed, but statistically speaking, the vast majority of reported narcissists, people that have like narcissistic personality disorder, are male. However, a lot of there's a couple things here. So for starters, in order for that to even be like documented and tracked, a person has to be officially diagnosed. For a person to be officially diagnosed, it's generally done in like maybe like one of three ways. Either they go to therapy, they're going to a psychiatrist, or they're in jail and they're doing a diagnosis there. Most men don't bring, if they have a girlfriend or a wife who has problematic behavior, they are going to be, men just kind of, it's like this weird social stigma. A lot of them don't go to therapy. And even if they did go to therapy, a lot of women, I think, are more diagnosed as borderline personality disorder instead of narcissist or antisocial, which is the newer term for sociopath or psychopath. So there's a lot of different ways that I think this statistic is being misreported and being underreported. And then, of course, too, men tend to do jail time more often than women. So again, like the stats, I think, are very, very skewed. So from what I see on my site, it's closer, I would say, like a 60-40. Like my site is probably about 60% women, 40% men-ish. And my guess, the reason that it's not, and maybe a little bit lower, maybe like 38, 62. I think the reason it's not closer to 50-50 is that my guess is that a lot of men don't, they're not I think it takes men a while to connect in their mind what is really going on. Again, like due to a lot of the social stigma, because even though there's a lot of information out there about what abuse is, even for women, it takes an awful lot for them to realize, hey, this is a really problematic relationship. This is an abusive relationship. So because the information that's out there doesn't often show the flip side of that. They don't show like what an abusive relationship looks like with a man being a target of abuse. It's not a conversation that's being openly and readily had. It needs to be. That's part of my goal with this channel and doing this outreach, is to open up the conversation about it, because abuse can happen to anybody, right? And it does happen to a lot of people of all genders, sexual orientations, religions, nationalities, ages, you name it. So, I think when you're seeing, again, in the comments and things like that, a lot of the gender bias, people talking about them in terms of them being mostly male, it just happens to be with kind of who's on the chat at that time. People tend to talk about their experience from their personal experience. Kind of like with my earlier videos in the Red Flags of the Narcissist series, I only talk about my experience with narcissists and other problematic people from my point of view, which is my personal experience generally has been with men. Again, like I had this one friend in high school. Like I said, I didn't even connect that she was kind of within that cluster B. I hadn't even thought about that situation in a long, long time. So I didn't connect that until, this year. So I was only talking about my experience having to do with men, and then my professional experience from when I was working at a domestic violence shelter. And the vast majority of domestic violence shelters, it's women that are women and children that are staying there, and generally the abusers are male. So all of my training, all of my education, all of my experience had been, female victim, male abuser, and that's problematic, like in a couple different ways. And it's, like it's only a part of the puzzle. Like there's a lot more to it, and to not open up that discussion and talk about, all of the different facets of abuse and who can be a victim and who can be an abuser is doing everybody a huge disservice.
Lots of love to you guys. You are not alone. You are not crazy, and you really can move forward and heal from this.